A crew of space rescuers receives a distress signal from an abandoned mining site on a faraway moon. But when they find out the truth about the man they rescue, it is already too late. Will they be able to go back to Earth safely? Let's find out in the movie. The story takes place in the 22nd century. A crew of rescuers boards the emergency medical rescue vessel called Nightingale. The 6 crew members include Captain Marley, his co-pilot Nick, the medical team consisting of Kayla, Yerzy, and Danica, and lastly, the computer technician Benjamin. With the help of Nightingale's AI system named Sweetie, the team is tasked to respond to any emergency in space. At this moment, the whole crew has no mission to do, so they are doing everything they can to entertain themselves. Sweetie wakes up Benjamin to play chess with him. Somewhere in the vessel, the couple Yerzy and Danica are making love. Meanwhile, Marley always passes the time watching Tom and Jerry as part of his doctoral dissertation. Then, at the medical bay, Kayla is checking on Nick's overall condition. As it turns out, Nick just got out of rehabilitation from Hazen addiction. Also, with him being on board for only 12 days, he doesn't seem to get along well with the crew just yet. This is because Nick doesn't have a good impression of the team. Knowing this, Kayla tells Nick that being in space can really feel lonely at times, which is why they need to get along. She also adds that this crew is truly great at doing their jobs, regardless of what he thinks of them. At this time, Kayla asks him why an ex-military pilot like him decided to be part of a space rescue team. Nick answers that he just wants to be in deep space because he likes silence. Before dismissing him, Kayla reminds Nick that he should spend time getting to know the crew members more. He takes the doctor's advice and goes to Benjamin to play cards with him. There, Benjamin shares with Nick that when he was programming Sweetie, he put some human personality traits in the AI's profile. After that, he pleads with Nick not to tell the authorities, to which the co-pilot agrees. Then, Nick goes back to Kayla. He notices that she seems bothered about him being on the crew, so he asks her about it. According to Kayla, she doesn't like Hazen and people that get addicted to it. As it turns out, she used to know someone who got addicted to it, and it causes her nothing but trouble. This is when Nick insists that he's different and that he's clean now. Some time later, the crew receives a distress signal from an abandoned mining site on a moon called Titan 37. It has been so long since the last rescue operation that they are all excited about it. The crew goes to their posts and checks all their equipment. Marley asks Nick what is the status and situation of the call. According to him, it is an SOS call with the status identified as critical. What puzzles Nick is that the call came all the way from more than 3,000 light years away. Hearing this, Marley asks if the dispatch mistakenly rerouted the call to them. He denies the possibility, saying that it is a direct call for the Nightingale, which means the person who sent the distress signal personally wants them to rescue him or her. In addition to that, Titan 37 doesn't follow its original orbit anymore, resulting in gravitational instability taking place around the moon. With all of that in mind, the crew knows that this mission will probably be dangerous. Although Marley doesn't want to put his crew in trouble, he also cannot abandon his duty as a rescuer. Just then, he asks Sweetie who the sender of the call is, to which the AI says that it is a man named Carl James Larson. Hearing this, Kayla stops at what she's doing, seeming to know who this Carl is. Danica asks if she knows him, to which Kayla says that Carl is her worst nightmare. Shortly after, the crew prepares themselves for the dimension jump. On their way to the dimensional stabilization chamber, Danica asks Kayla what she thinks of the situation with Carl. Kayla replies that everything Carl does is well planned and she is having second thoughts about this mission. When Kayla heads out to her chamber, Benjamin shows up to tell Danica and Yerzy a story about some people who didn't manage to get into the chamber in time before the jump happened. According to him, a man once panicked during a jump and got out of his chamber. Seeing this, his friend pulled him into his own chamber to save him. But since the chamber wasn't sealed properly, the jump disfigured the two men, creating a 14-foot-long man with a head at each end. At that moment, the captain finally arrives and orders Kayla to exchange chambers with him. Kayla is skeptical about the request, but still obliged. And then, the dimension jump commences. Afterward, the first one to get out of the chamber is Yerzy, and he immediately checks himself to see if something has changed in him. Having made sure that he is fine, Yerzy checks on Benjamin, who has his mouth wide open. Then all of a sudden, Benjamin scares him and laughs at him. However, their fun is cut short when they see Marley, who has been disfigured after the jump. The crew gathers around his chamber and Kayla points out that his skin has been fused with the glass of the chamber. To make matters worse, space debris is hitting the ship because of gravitational instability. Unfortunately, the fuel reservoir has been hit. With everything that is happening simultaneously, Nick and Benjamin decide to man the ship while Kayla, Yerzy, and Danica attend to Marley. Nick runs an analysis on the whole ship and Sweetie tells him that the main engine has been severely damaged and they lost a lot of fuel already. Upon opening up the cover of the ship, Nick and Benjamin discover that the star which the Titan 37 is supposed to orbit around is a blue giant, which has 10 times more gravity than the Sun. And with the Titan 37's unstable gravitational pull, they are in a lot of trouble. With an incoming impact detected, Nick overrides manual control and fires the docking thrusters, allowing the ship to hover. Meanwhile, Kayla is doing everything she can to separate Marley from the Glass, who begs her to kill him because he doesn't want to suffer anymore. Kayla doesn't want to give up on him, however, the chamber collapses, finally killing their captain. Going back to the bridge, Nick enables Sweetie again and runs another analysis on the ship. According to Sweetie, they suffer a fuel loss of 82%. In order for them to escape the high gravitational field of the blue giant, they need to recharge the dimension drive first for 17 hours and 1 minute. But the problem is, there will be solar incineration in 17 hours and 12 minutes. That leaves them with only 11 minutes to escape the place. Before he leaves, Nick orders Benjamin to start contacting Titan 37. Just then, he meets with Kayla and learns that Marley is gone. With Marley's death, Nick, as the co-pilot of the ship, steps up as the new captain. After some time, Nick goes to Kayla's sleeping quarters and the two share a drink. While drinking, the sexual tension between the two rises and they succumb to it later on. At the same time, Yerzy and Danica are just done with the deed. Then, Yerzy shows him a form for them to finally have a child from the Planetary Population Commission. As it turns out, it has been so long since Danica told Yerzy that she wanted a kid. Since then, he does everything he can to get a form from the commission. Going back to Nick and Kayla, they are called by Benjamin to go to the chamber room. There, he explains that the chamber that Marley used has a malfunctioning vent and their late captain knows about it all along. Kayla realized that's why Marley took that vent, which is supposed to be hers, even knowing that it is malfunctioning so he can save her. Benjamin is disappointed and points out that Marley should have just transferred the mission to other crews, then he would still be alive. But Nick insists that Marley dies while doing his job as a captain, so it is their duty to finish what he started. After that, the crew gathers at the bridge where Nick tells them about their situation involving solar incineration. Suddenly, Sweeties alerts them that a transport ship is departing from Titan 37. Hearing this, the crew prepares to intercept and help the pilot of the approaching ship. When the ship docks at the Nightingale, a panicking man in a spacesuit emerges from it. Upon removing the man's helmet, Kayla sees that it is not Carl, but a young man instead. They bring the man to the medical bay and Kayla immediately notifies Nick that the man they found is not Carl Larson. During their examination of him, Kayla and Danica notice that the man's bone structure seems to be strengthening and hardening itself. Before she leaves, she orders Danica to keep an eye on her patient. Then, Kayla meets with Nick and they talk about Carl and the man they just rescued. It is then revealed that Carl is Kayla's past lover and he is the reason why she hates Hazen addicts. She also adds that the man must be Carl's son, but not hers because she cannot have a child. Simultaneously, Danica is surprised to see that the patient is already out of his bed. The man introduces himself as Troy. Right at their first interaction, he starts flirting with Danica. A little later, Kayla goes to Troy to check on him. The two talk about Carl, and Troy confirms that he is his late father. He states that on Carl's deathbed, all he regrets is that he was never a good partner for Kayla. Shortly after, Nick arrives. But before he could even ask, Troy admits to them that he was scavenging. Unfortunately for him, he was left by his friends when they didn't find much on the abandoned mining site. Nick then asks if there is fuel on Titan, to which Troy answers that there's plenty of it on the moon. Hearing this, Nick immediately goes to prepare the shuttle. On his way, he orders Yerzy to inspect Troy's transport ship and report to him anything that looks suspicious. Following the captain's order, Yerzy begins the inspection and finds a glowing translucent alien artifact. After notifying Nick about the artifact, Yerzy inspects it closer and seems to be hypnotized by it. When the captain arrives, they take the artifact to quarantine and confront Troy about it because it's what he does as a scavenger, collect things and keep them. He offers the crew 5% of the cut of the money he will make selling the artifact to the government back on Earth. However, Nick doesn't want any money and declares that until they know what the artifact is, it will stay in quarantine. And when everything is done, they will send it afloat in space. On his way to the shuttle, Nick orders Benjamin to put a rescue return transport on the shuttle. He wants a backup vehicle in case something goes wrong in his exploration on Titan 37. On the other side of the ship, Troy starts flirting with Danica again. As if he's reading her mind, Troy says that Danica wants a baby, but she is not sure if she wants it to be with Yerzy. Taking advantage of Danica's confusion, Troy convinces her to have sex with him. Meanwhile, Yerzy goes to the artifact like he's drawn into it. While Danica is having an affair with Troy, Yerzy is also having a weird time with the artifact. In the medical bay, Kayla is running the analysis on the artifact. That is when she discovers that it is a three-dimensional case housing a ninth-dimensional matter inside it. As it turns out, the artifact is a bomb that works like a double-edged sword. Upon killing everything in its path, it will also bloom life and form a new universe. Knowing this, Kayla quickly informs Benjamin about it. Shortly after, Danica finds Yerzy naked beside the artifact. Upon bringing him to Kayla, the analysis states that Yerzy has become younger and stronger than an average human. The scene then changes to Nick reaching the mining site and discovering frozen bodies of humans. Seeing this, Nick tries to connect to the Nightingale. However, Troy keeps him from it as he already started jamming the signals. At this moment, Troy reveals what truly happened to him back on Titan 37. When he and his friends found the artifact together, all of them succumbed to its power. But Troy is the only one who managed to live after taking in the power of the artifact. After revealing the truth, he starts attacking Nick by controlling the equipment on Titan 37 from the ship. When he fails to kill him the first time, Troy remotely controls the shuttle to fly in a loop, trapping Nick on the moon. Shortly after, Danica arrives at the bridge and discovers what Troy has done. But he's not bothered about it, casually ripping one of the components from the panel. Troy then throws it to Danica and mocks her to fix it. Pissed, she smacks his face with the component and spits on him. Due to that, Troy punches her in the stomach and throws her in one of the airlocks. And to her horror, he opens the seal, killing Danica by getting her sucked into space. As if nothing happened, his wounds from Danica's attack heal completely. Meanwhile, Yerzy, who had no idea what just happened to his partner, is back in the quarantine bay. He tries to open the quarantine bay several times, but Kayla changes the passcode to it so no one can access it except her. A little later, Troy shows up and just destroys the number pad. Seeing the confusion on Yerzy's face, Troy shows his extremely hard knuckles to him. Next, he grinds his knuckles against each other and translucent energy seems to be charging from them. Yerzy suddenly becomes wary of Troy, but when he tries to run away, Troy throws him to the other side. Grabbing a big two, Yerzy engages in a battle with him. However, even with his enhanced strength, Yerzy still can't hurt Troy even a little bit. Disappointed, Troy smacks his head on both sides, making a dent in his skull and killing him. After that, he also sends Yerzy's body to space just like what he did to Danica. On the bridge, Benjamin finds the destroyed component, and that is when he realizes that something is going on in the ship. He orders Sweetie to locate Yerzy and Danica, to which the AI says they are now on the ship. Just outside, Troy intercepts Kayla, planning to talk to her, but Benjamin opens the door and points a hook gun at him while telling Kayla what Troy has done to their crewmates. Hearing this, Troy dares Benjamin to shoot him, and he really did. Without wasting time, Kayla and Benjamin run to the armory to get themselves weapons. After that, Benjamin sets out to find Troy. Arriving at the chamber room, Troy suddenly shows up behind Benjamin. Scared, he immediately shoots him in the head, but he witnesses as Troy just takes it on without a problem. He then throws Benjamin to the other side of the room. Thinking quickly, Benjamin locks the hatch he lands on and orders Sweetie to remove oxygen in the chamber room except in the hatch where he's in. However, Sweetie is not programmed to harm humans, even if they are bad people. This is when Benjamin reveals to the AI that he programmed her to make a decision just like humans do. Recalling the time when Sweetie wakes him up to play chess, it is her manifesting her human trait to want to play. Unfortunately for Benjamin, it is too late when he convinces Sweetie to follow him. Troy already manages to break into the hatch and kills him. Going back to Kayla, Sweetie tells her that Benjamin is dead. To make matters worse, Troy just arrives and corners her. He finally reveals the truth that he is actually Carl and that he sent the distress call to get Kayla back. With him evolving into some kind of godly being because of the artifact, he wants to change Kayla into the likes of him so they can live together forever. Then all of a sudden, Nick speaks through the ship's communication system. As it turns out, when he landed the shuttle on Titan 37, he also released the rescue return transport. This is what he is using now to get back to Nightingale. Seeing Carl distracted, Kayla grabs the laser scalpel. When he is about to intercept Nick, Kayla shoots the laser into his eye and quickly makes her way to the cargo bay. As soon as he heals his wound, Carl grabs a hook gun and follows Kayla. When the door opens, he shoots immediately, only to find out that he has shot an empty spacesuit. Nick then comes out of the transport afterward and grabs some mechanical pincers, engaging in hand-to-hand combat with Carl. Given his enhanced strength and healing abilities, Carl takes the upper hand in the beginning. Luckily for Nick, Kayla hits Carl from the back, distracting him. Taking the opportunity, Nick cuts off one of Carl's arms and impales him in one of the cargo cages. After locking the cage, Nick and Kayla immediately run to the quarantine bay where the artifact is. However, it doesn't take long before Carl breaks out of the cage. He then grabs his arm and just attaches it back to his body. Concurrently, after hearing that Carl already escapes, Nick orders Kayla to lead Carl to the observation dome where he plans to finish him. Remotely controlling the android in the ship, Kayla dresses it up, making it look like Nick is carrying the artifact, and tricks Carl to follow it. Seeing that it's only the android, Carl doesn't waste time grabbing the artifact from it. As Kayla raises the middle finger to him, Nick detonates the bomb he attached to the artifact. After that, Nick and Kayla immediately go to the chamber room for the dimensional jump. But to their surprise, they find all of the chambers were destroyed by Carl except one left functional. To make matters worse, the artifact is now beginning to detonate and the explosion is said to reach Earth in 51 years. With only 2 minutes left before the dimension jump, Nick tells Kayla to take the chamber. However, she doesn't want to leave Nick behind, insisting that it is going to be either taking their chance by getting into one chamber together or both of them dying right now. Not wanting Kayla to die, Nick agrees to take the risk. As the artifact finally explodes, the Nightingale manages to do the dimension jump before they are hit. When they reach the Earth's solar system, Nick and Kayla luckily do not suffer from any genetic disfiguration. Yet, the jump makes them now share 2% of genetic material from each other. The two discover that one of their eyes is taken on the other person's eye color. Also, Sweetie reveals that Kayla is now pregnant with Nick's baby. The movie ends with Nick and Kayla resting in each other's arms, thinking to live their life to the fullest before the artifact's explosion reaches the Earth. Supernova uses one of the common tropes of apocalypse movies, only it feels like a prologue or a prequel to something. The movie focuses on the characters that discovered it, instead of the actual apocalypse itself. Also, there are still unanswered questions like, who created the artifact? Why does the Earth have to control its population? Etc. It is not a bad film, but upon watching it, you will realize that they could have added more lore to the story.